You're about to listen to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly and the author of When Everyone Shines But You, a mental health and self-acceptance blogger and a recovering darkness addict. I have experienced intense anxiety, deep depression and life trauma, but I'm coming out of the other side now. Darkness was a comfort zone for me for a long time, and it felt safer than the light. So in this podcast I share with you my journey into the light and how I move through challenge in an empowering way. I'll share with you tools and nurturing ways to embrace your humanity. I was once a shy, scared introvert, afraid to speak, but that's all changing. Let's take this journey together and learn to fly. Hi there, welcome back to Kelly Martin Speaks. I'm your host Kelly Martin and this is episode 103. Now, today I'm going to talk about how easy it is to externalize problems out there in favour of dealing with our own issues in life. Now, this past week I've been indulging in watching lectures and videos from a psychologist, lecturer and author called Jordan Peterson. He's someone who approaches the issues of life from a very open and often critical direction. Now, last night I was watching a short video where he was on an interview news panel in Australia. It was clear from the panel that most of them didn't like him. And an audience member in Australia asked him a very rude question. It wasn't even a question. It was a typical, what I call gotcha question, where someone wants a specific answer. They want to make the person they are asking immediately the bad guy and frame the question in a way to insult the person. Now, this woman, she didn't really ask a question. It was more a statement about Jordan. His response was so triggering and eye-opening to me. It reminded me of my own questions I've considered from my past. He spoke about how often big events like climate change, Black Lives Matter, and many other huge movements are focused on or by young people. Now, I used to be one of those young people, and as I said in a recent podcast, I joined a Youth Against Racism in Europe movement to march in London. And it was mainly because I wanted to belong, I wanted to be part of something great, and in all honesty, I just wanted an exciting and free trip to London. And anyway, I digress. The point of this conversation he had was to reflect on the fact that many of us may focus wholeheartedly on the bigger dynamic, what we perceive as problems in the world, but we don't question why we are focusing on them. For me, if something was going wrong in my life or I was really struggling or depressed, I would focus on some drama happening outside of me. It could be family, it could be political, it could be a huge global event. And I was distracting myself from the pain and the struggle that I was in. I wasn't prepared at the time to face my own inner demons, so I projected my struggle onto certain issues. Now, the woman in the audience on this news program, she mocked him about how he'd spoken previously about cleaning your room. What he meant was that if you want order or change to happen in your life, you focus on what is here now. You look at your home, you look at your life, what needs order. And it was a basic metaphor for life. He pointed out to her that instead of looking at climate change, consider that she needed to clean her own house first. That she may want to think about the fact that much of what she may be focused on could be worked through at a local level, and that by focusing on finding balance within or in her own life, she'd be more useful, more valuable. And if these issues still exist for her, she would then be in a far better position to enact change. Now, I remember when I used to go to see a lot of healers and practitioners, I saw one every week who was a friend of mine at the time. After a while, I noticed how she would react if people left her group because they were growing beyond her teachings. And I also noticed she was unhappy about this, and there was also a huge influx of people having regular healing. And when I had healing, after a while, she would tell me things were wrong with me that needed work, that weren't wrong, and I didn't need any help in that area. She was more identified with being a teacher and a healer than actually allowing people to grow and find their own truths and balance and maybe move on from the teachings or the healing. Her focus was externally out there instead of working through her own personal and life issues that made her hold on to students and clients. And this can be the same in many arenas in our lives. So today, if you feel very passionate about climate change, Black Lives Matter, war in other countries, injustices, the list goes on, is there anything this intense focus is distracting you from? Is there anything you are ignoring and avoiding facing by using these events to steer your mind elsewhere? Now, we all need distractions at times. I get this. I've done it more often than not. But there comes a time in our human lives when we need to think beyond this and see if indeed our own houses need tending to. And also recognizing that we can make more change happen by looking locally and focusing inwardly first. I've noticed it's very easy to focus on the big COVID-19 coronavirus distraction. We may look at it globally or our countries as a whole, when we may be best suited to focusing on what we can do locally and what needs changing in our immediate environment or personally. I remember, like many, when coronavirus became well known in the UK, it was all over the news. It was very negative all of the time. It still is. And I think many of us dropped our other life issues for a while and got lost in the pandemic fear. We exchanged one way to struggle for another, because when a struggle is something big and out there, out of our control, it's more likely to attract our focus and attention. Now, we may have many other life issues that need our focus, but instead of being out of our control, they may simply be a number of things we need to do, actions that we need to take, changes that we need to enact, etc. For example, I was ignoring my financial problems until recently. I was pretending they would just go away on their own, knowing fine well internally and in my life that I had to make some changes. So what did I do? Instead, I focused on the pandemic. I focused on politics. I focused on social media. Anything and everything I could get my teeth into just to avoid it. I didn't want to deal with my own personal here and now. I wanted to be distracted from it. I was scared to deal with it. I was scared to put my own house in order. And you can replace financial issues with health, relationship, or business issues. If we're avoiding them, we may look outside instead. So have a think about this today. Something to ponder on. Is your focus distracted because there's things that you can change and actions that you can take in your life that you are resisting for some reason, but they're necessary to happen? and then maybe pull back your attention from those distractions and see where you go from there. Thanks for listening to this episode of Kelly Martin Speaks. If you have a question or topic you're struggling with and would like me to answer on an upcoming podcast episode, please get in touch. Your name will be confidential. Email me at kellymartinspeaks@gmail.com or message me on Facebook via my page Kelly Martin Speaks. And don't forget, if you feel that others are passing you by and the not good enough voice is screaming loudly, pop by kellymartin.co.uk to find out all about my books, including Book 1, When Everyone Shines But You. You can also support my channel via my podcast page on my website kellymartinspeaks.co.uk. You can do this via PayPal, or you can even buy me a coffee via Ko-fi. Until next time, bye for now. You've been listening to my podcast, Kelly Martin Speaks. I'd really appreciate your feedback. If you're listening on iTunes, please give me a review. It helps me be seen and heard by those that need it. You can also follow me on kellymartinspeaks.co.uk, where you can read my blogs, find out about my book series, and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. I'm also all over social media, so search for me via Kelly Martin Speaks on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.